There is a man who owns airports, not works at them, not manages them, owns them. London Gatwick, London City, Edinburgh. A stake in Italy's high-speed rail network. Energy pipelines and shipping terminals spanning 6 continents. He has sat in the boardrooms of Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and OpenAI. He has advised a Republican president and a Democratic one within the same decade. He built a company from nothing that a $12.5 billion deal absorbed into the largest asset manager on earth. And yet, if you stopped 100 people on the street and showed them his photograph, perhaps one would know his name. No reality television, no trail of controversy for the tabloids to chase. Just 4 decades of some of the most consequential deal-making in modern financial history, conducted almost entirely out of public view. This is the story of Adebayo Ogunlesi, the man who bought Gatwick Airport, the most powerful person in global finance that almost nobody has ever heard of. Adebayo Ogunlesi is a Nigerian-born American lawyer, investment banker, and private equity investor, widely regarded as one of the most influential deal-makers in modern global finance. He is the founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Global Infrastructure Partners, and since 2024, a senior managing director of BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, where he also sits on the Global Executive Committee and Board of Directors. He has served on the boards of Goldman Sachs, where he was lead director, and, since January 2025, OpenAI. Forbes estimates his personal fortune at approximately $2.5 billion. What follows is the story of how he built it, decade by decade. Adebayo Ogunlesi was born on the 20th of December, 1953, in the town of Makun, in Sagamu, Ogun State, in southwestern Nigeria. His family was Yoruba, and his household was one of serious intellectual weight. His father, Theophilus O. Ogunlesi, was the first Nigerian to become a professor of medicine at the University of Ibadan, one of the most respected universities on the African continent. His mother, Susan Olorunfemi Peters, raised him inside a family where education was not a luxury. It was an expectation. This was not a rags to riches story in the way so many great lives are. It was something rarer. A household already built on academic excellence in a newly independent, optimistic Nigeria that would go on to produce one of the most quietly influential dealmakers in the history of global finance. Young Adebayo was sent to King's College, Lagos, one of the country's most prestigious secondary schools, a proving ground for Nigeria's future doctors, lawyers, and civil servants. From Lagos, his education carried him to Oxford University in England, where he read philosophy, politics, and economics, graduating with first-class honours, the top academic distinction, Oxford Awards. A young man from Sagamu had just outperformed the finest minds of the British establishment on their own ground. It still wasn't enough. Ogunlesi crossed the Atlantic to Harvard, where he earned 2 elite graduate degrees essentially back-to-back. A Juris Doctor from Harvard Law School, awarded magna cum laude, and a Master of Business Administration from Harvard Business School. Law and business, both spoken fluently before he had turned 30. But before finance claimed him, Ogunlesi took a detour most young lawyers can only dream of. From 1980 to 1981, he served as a law clerk to Justice Thurgood Marshall of the United States Supreme Court, the first African-American to ever sit on that bench, and one of the most consequential civil rights lawyers in American history. For 1 year, a young Nigerian immigrant sat inside the inner chambers of the nation's highest court, reading, arguing, and drafting alongside a legal legend. From the Supreme Court, Ogunlesi joined Cravath, Swain, and Moore, one of the most prestigious law firms on Wall Street. He had, by every conventional measure, already built an extraordinary legal career. And then he walked away from it. In 1983, Ogunlesi joined the investment bank First Boston, not as a lawyer, but as an advisor on a single transaction, a Nigerian gas project. He joined the bank's project finance group, the unglamorous, highly technical corner of banking that structures financing behind pipelines, power plants, and infrastructure, exactly the kind of asset that would define his entire career. Over the following 2 decades, Ogunlesi worked on transactions across North and South America, the Caribbean, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. First Boston became Credit Suisse First Boston. From 1997 to 2002, he ran the bank's global energy group. In 2002, he was promoted to global head of the entire investment banking division, one of the most senior positions on Wall Street. By 2004, he had risen to executive vice chairman and chief client officer. 23 years. From a single Nigerian gas advisory to the executive board of one of the largest investment banks on earth. And then, in 2006, at the height of his banking career, Ogunlesi did something almost nobody in his position does. He left. He had noticed something the rest of Wall Street had largely overlooked. Infrastructure, the airports, ports, pipelines, and power grids that quietly run the modern world was a woefully underinvested asset class. Unglamorous, but essential, durable, and almost impossible to replace. In July 2006, Ogunlesi founded Global Infrastructure Partners, known as GIP, built specifically to acquire and operate the physical backbone of the global economy. Credit Suisse and General Electric were among its first investors. GIP's very first acquisition, later that same year, was London City Airport. The deal that made Ogunlesi's name arrived in 2009. GIP acquired a majority stake in London Gatwick Airport, Britain's second busiest, in a transaction worth £1.455 billion. The Nigerian press gave him a nickname that stuck for the rest of his career: the man who bought Gatwick Airport. GIPA wasn't finished. In 2012, it acquired Edinburgh Airport. In 2018, it bought Italy's first private high-speed rail operator. Under Ogunlesi's leadership, GIP grew to manage more than $100 billion in assets, spanning energy, transport, digital infrastructure, and water and waste management on nearly every continent on Earth. As his firm grew, so did his influence in rooms far beyond his own company. In 2012, Goldman Sachs appointed him to its board of directors. He would go on to become the bank's lead director, one of the most trusted independent voices inside one of Wall Street's most storied institutions. His influence crossed political lines in a way few financiers manage. In December 2016, President-elect Donald Trump named Ogunlesi to his Strategic and Policy Forum. Years later, under President Biden, Ogunlesi was appointed to the President's National Infrastructure Advisory Council. Republican or Democrat, when the United States government wanted advice on the physical foundations of the economy, Adebayo Ogunlesi's phone rang. Then, in January 2024, came the deal that defined the final chapter of GIP's independent existence. BlackRock, the largest asset manager on the planet, agreed to acquire Global Infrastructure Partners for approximately $12.5 billion, $3 billion in cash, and 12 million shares of BlackRock stock. It was one of the largest asset management acquisitions in Wall Street history. 5 of GIP's 6 founding partners, Ogunlesi among them, joined BlackRock as part of the deal. The man who had walked away from a Wall Street bank in 2006 to build something of his own now sat on the board and executive committee of the very kind of institution he had once left behind. Except now, he was one of the people steering it. His story was still not finished. In January 2025, Ogunlesi was appointed to the board of directors of OpenAI. It was, in many ways, the logical next step for a man who had spent his career financing the physical infrastructure the world depends on. Artificial intelligence needs an enormous amount of very physical infrastructure of its own. Power plants, data centers, and electrical grids capable of carrying loads nobody had ever needed to carry before. The man who built his career on pipelines and airports was now positioned at the center of the infrastructure question defining the next technological era. Today, Ogunlesi also sits on the boards of Topgolf Callaway Brands, Cosmos Energy Holdings, and Terminal Investment Limited. He remains a member of the Dean's Advisory Boards at both Harvard Law School and Harvard Business School. His fortune, estimated at $2.5 billion, was built not through headlines or hype, but through 4 decades of the same discipline his father modeled for him in Ibadan. Rigorous, unglamorous, compounding excellence. Those who have worked alongside him describe a man who avoids the spotlight almost as a matter of principle. No loud branding, no public persona built around his own name. In an industry frequently built on ego, Ogunlesi built an empire on the opposite instinct. Buy the things everyone else overlooks, run them better than anyone expects, and let the results speak for themselves. From a professor's household in Sagamu, to the chambers of the United States Supreme Court, to the boardrooms of Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and OpenAI, Adebayo Ogunlesi's story is not the story of a man who sought fame. It is the story of a man who quietly came to own, finance, or influence a piece of nearly everything the modern world runs on, and who never once needed anyone to notice. If you've made it this far into this story, you already know you love this kind of content. The real history, the real people, the versions of these stories that the documentaries never quite tell. So subscribe, because every week on this channel, we go deep into one great life. Someone who started with nothing, or someone who had everything and built even more. Someone who changed the world quietly while the world was looking somewhere else. Next week, two brothers from a struggling farm family who built the greatest entertainment empire in history, and how one of them gave up his hospital bed to make it happen. Walt and Roy Disney. Don't miss it.